Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Julia, a Dallas-based flight attendant. One question that I get all the time from people is how flight attendants are paid, how much we are paid. I thought for this video I would talk all about money and salary. So the first thing I want to mention is that as a flight attendant, your yearly salary can range so much, and this depends on a lot of different factors that I will go into more detail about. Many people don't know this, but you can either be a regional flight attendant, a mainline flight attendant, or a corporate flight attendant. And you know what, there are probably other categories that I am missing as well, but those are just the three that I am aware of. I started my career out as a regional flight attendant. A regional airline is a partner or a sister company to a larger mainline. However, the reason why I am mentioning all of this is because as a regional flight attendant, you typically make less money. The starting pay is typically a lot less when you fly for a regional airline as opposed to a mainline carrier. And in my opinion, I think the reason for this is just because regionals are typically smaller companies. They fly to less destinations and they have less passengers on their aircraft. Now, when you think of corporate aviation, it is synonymous to business aviation. So that means you are working on a private jet, a charter jet, for a celebrity or for a private family. You are working on a private aircraft, and typically those salaries are a bit higher, but I know as a corporate flight attendant the amount of work that you do is a lot more strenuous and you are gone a lot longer, so you kind of have to keep all of those factors in mind. Next thing I want to talk to you guys about are flight attendant hourly rates, when we are paid and when we are not paid. Many people don't know this, but flight attendants are not salaried. We are not told, hey, you're going to make $50,000 this year no matter how much you fly. Here in the United States, flight attendants are paid for the hours that we fly. So what does that mean? We are not paid when we are just hanging out at the airport, when we are waiting on our next flight, when we're delayed. Our pay starts when the forward boarding door closes and the captain pushes back from the gate. And then our pay stops when we arrive to our destination and that boarding door is opened again. So we actually are not paid during boarding, so that's why a lot of flight attendants will not put luggage in the overhead bin, because if that luggage falls on us and if we get injured, we are not compensated for our injuries, because technically we are not being paid, so the airline says that we are not on duty even though we're working. So it makes zero sense to me, but that's just how it is at every airline in the US that I know of. I'm going to put up a picture on your screen so you can see exactly the different pay rates between the different airlines across the US. And I just want to let you guys know this information is public. You can go to flightattendant.pro and you can search a lot of different information on here about the flight attendant lifestyle, the different companies, and if you are looking to become a flight attendant, I highly suggest you doing some research on this specific website. As you all can see, each airline has a starting pay rate that ranges here from $20.83 to $30.96. And then if you scroll to the bottom, you can see most airlines after 13 years. However, it looks like Frontier goes down to 19 years. You have a top out pay. One thing that is really cool working for the airline industry is every year you do get a raise, and then it looks like for most airlines after your 4th and 5th year, you get a significant pay increase. My first year as a flight attendant, I made $27,000. And granted, I was also working for a regional, so I didn't make as much money, and I also only worked for that regional for 5 months, and then I took, I believe, a month to a month and a half off before going to training for my mainline, and then I was in training for a month and a half without pay. And then it took me about another month until I earned a paycheck with my mainline. So $27,000 is the lowest I've ever made as a flight attendant, but that also was with my regional pay and taking a few months off. Now that I'm flying full-time for a mainline, I am obviously making much more than that. I also want to talk to you guys about how every contract for every airline is different. The amount of time that you spend being on reserve versus being a line holder can greatly affect your pay. Reserve is when you are on call with your company. So that basically means that you are either sitting at home or sitting at the airport waiting for your airline to call you for a trip. And you do get a certain amount of days off for that month, and it's important to know that you also can pick up trips on those days off if you would like. This is a great way to earn extra hours and get paid on top of your minimum guarantee. guarantee. You are guaranteed a specific amount of hours no matter how much the company flies you. When I worked for my regional, I was guaranteed 69.5 hours, and with my mainline I am paid 75 hours minimum guaranteed. A good example of this is actually in November of last year. I was on call and I believe my company only flew me 40 hours. It was like 40 to 45 hours. However, I picked up trips on my days off. And when you pick up trips on your days off, those go above your guarantee. So I ended up being paid for 103 hours when in reality, I probably only flew maybe 65 to 70 hours because I had my 40 hours from my company and then the extra hours that I picked up on my days off. As flight attendants, we can sort of fly as much as we want or as little as we want. And obviously this is a lot easier to do on your line months. A line month is when you can bid for certain trips and certain days off, and you can drop trips, trade them. You have a lot more flexibility with your schedule. I think along with this, it's really important to mention too that as flight attendants, we do not work typical 40-hour work weeks. There are flight attendants who fly the bare minimum at 40 hours, and then there are flight attendants I know who fly the absolute maximum and waive their legalities and fly 130 to 150 hours a month. So that's why on my thumbnail it is not clickbait. You really can make 27,000 to over 100,000 as a flight attendant. I personally know flight attendants who are at my specific pay rate only, you know, 2, 3, 4 years in, and they are making 80 to 100,000 a year because they fly so much. So obviously the more you fly, the more you make. The less you fly, the less you make. Another point that I want to talk to you guys about is there are different ways within the job of being a flight attendant that we can make money. The first is per diem. The amount of hours that we spend away from our base, we are also earning per diem, which that money is technically supposed to be used for food on our layovers and etc. However, it is just added onto our paychecks. It's not like every trip we get a certain amount of cash from the company or anything like that. I love per diem. It usually adds an extra $400 to $500 onto my check at the end of the month. We are also paid at a slightly higher rate for international trips. So for example, if I work a flight to London, I am paid more per flight hour on that flight than I would be if I worked a flight from say Dallas to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the reason for that is because A, the flight is longer and the level of service is higher. As flight attendants, we are also paid more depending on the position we are on the aircraft. I like flying lead. I really enjoy flying position 1, and I am paid a few extra dollars per flight hour to fly that position because I am working first class and there are other responsibilities that I have to handle as well being the lead flight attendant. I also know that on international flights, you are paid the international premium plus galley pay if you are the galley on that flight. And let me tell you, those galleys earn their money. If you are working the galley on a 10-hour flight, it is no easy task. I have only done it once. I've only done it to Lima, Peru, and that was only like a 6 or 7 hour flight. And let me tell you, it is so much extra work. Another question I get asked a lot is if a flight is canceled, am I still paid for it? And the answer is it depends. If I am on reserve and my trip cancels, I am technically not paid for it because those hours were just going towards my 75-hour guarantee. However, if it was my line month and if it was due to no fault of my own and I had to be removed from the trip because of flight cancellations, bad weather, etc., then I would still be paid. If I just didn't show up to the airport for my trip and was removed, then obviously I wouldn't be paid for it. I really appreciate you all watching this video about flight attendant pay. If you guys have any more questions, please let me know in the comments below so I can answer them. That is all the information that I have for you guys now. Thank you everyone so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss any more of my travel tips and adventures. I will see you guys next time. Bye.